Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of Minions of the Zoo. And if it's Tuesday, I must be Skep, your host. And with me, I have fellow minion, the Harry
Mhm.
channel. How you doing, Harry?
The Spoopy channel. Yeah,
The
I'm good.
Spooky channel.
No,
You know,
Spoopy.
I have to call attention to your wonderful backdrop. In fact, let me solo you up there.
Yeah.
I That is just absolutely beautiful. That is awesome. That well done.
Well,
And hearing
yeah.
that you hand drew this and
I did
it
not do any of
took you
that.
months.
I did not do any of that. I have a professional person that works for me on a as needed job basis
Yeah.
who I had spent a couple hours knocking this out. But I actually did do some of the work myself. That background image, both of them
Hmm.
were fuzzy and low res. I used a bunch of AI trickery to turn them
Yep.
into something that didn't suck and then sent them back.
Oh,
And so I did actually have a hand in this. And it was pretty amazing what you can do if you've got the right software and you know what you're doing.
have you got any of that to hand? If you could call up an example of that so we could show everybody what a difference that makes. And if you want to look for that, I'll describe a little bit what we're talking about.
Well,
What?
at 720p, I don't know if you're going to be able to see.
Oh,
But
that's right. We
give me a
yeah, you might
moment.
not be.
Give me a moment here. I have some. I'll get this. Let's
I'll
see.
describe what we're talking about to our audience, although I'm sure a lot of them know what this is. And this is the ability to use software to enhance old fuzzy photographs, and the AI goes through and makes decisions about the best way to improve the resolution of the image, and it's absolutely stunning
So
the differences.
here's an image, and this
Right?
you think to yourself, this looks pretty good.
It looks
This looks
fairly crisp, doesn't it?
looks fairly crisp, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then you look at that, which is
Oh,
actually suddenly you look at the headstones where they have like the circle around the cross, and you can suddenly see things
you
that
can see.
you couldn't see before. So here's the before. Again, this is much more obvious at higher resolution.
Yeah,
Um,
but if folks, on the bottom left-hand side of this image, there's a circular cross thing on top of a gravestone. Harry, show the old image.
okay,
Back the old.
here's the old image, and
All right, keep your eye on that on the bottom left-hand side, just below that scraggly tree. Look at that. All right, now change it.
yeah, and there you can see it suddenly sharpens up.
That's amazing.
I went in to
That
get
is.
my eyes looked at because I was
Mhm.
working on my taxes last Monday because I'm dumb. My accountant retired. He didn't really send out a proper notice. He just sort of stopped doing his job.
Put a gun in his mouth and.
He just sort of stopped. Can we go back to two person mode?
Oh yeah, sorry about.
Otherwise, it's going to confuse people.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, he just sort of stopped, and I was getting close to the 14th, like the April 15th, a few years ago, and I was wondering what happened. And then I'm just like, he never sent me anything. And then I go to look at his website, and it's like, nope, nobody's here. He's gone. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that was
Wow.
professional. That was cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Might as
so
well.
so I had to start doing it myself. Which now that there's going to be 86,000 new auditors, in hindsight, maybe that was not a great idea. I used to do taxes a long time ago because I thought it would be a good way to get through school working
I
part
was gonna
time.
say you and I both. That's another thing that we both did, and I was the I was the command income tax counselor in
Yeah.
Monterey. I absolutely, because I was the dispersing officer and I was the assistant controller, which means shite financial job. You get it, Lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but they sent me to a month, not a month long school. It must have been about 2.5 weeks of hardcore tax preparation. That was very interesting. That was really my first uh, delve into it, and I had meant to tell you about this, that we shared that because I had heard you talk about the fact that you prepared taxes when you were in school.
Well, I did it for one quarter And then I realized, or one semester, I realized that the the way that the classes I wanted to take were arranged, it just wasn't going to work. So it was just
Mhm.
sort of one season that I did that. But I actually took the H&R Block tax preparation course.
That's outstanding. That's a
It,
great course too.
it actually was a pretty good course, and to make it more challenging, I did the whole thing without a calculator. I just did all the math in my head. Uh,
It's like
because a good,
like we used to do
yeah,
back
like
in
we used to do.
1979.
And then, at the end of the class, they said, "Hey, you want a job?" And I said, "Sure." And so I did taxes for a season, and it was really interesting. Um, Met a number of interesting people that came in. One of them was a guy who was born in the Philippines and then fought for the U.S. in World War II and
Mhm.
gained his U.S. citizenship that way. Great guy, but a terrible language barrier. I kept trying to convince him not to bring me personally cash to make his tax burden go away. I'm just like, no, 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 that's not how this works. But I can say that by the time April 15th rolled around and people would show up, there were people showing up with who had sold multiple properties with shoe boxes full of receipts, thinking that they were going to file their taxes. Um,
Oh wow.
I was under the age of 21. We were drinking champagne uh, to celebrate the end of the thing while filing people's extensions. So I was underage drinking, filing extensions as quickly as I could. It was
Outstanding.
great. Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
good. Yeah. That was the first time I had actually worked in a situation where it was mostly women.
Mhm.
Uh, once
What
they
year
kind
is
of
that roughly? What year are we talking about roughly?
80, sort of second half of the 80s.
Okay, like 85 on
Yeah,
85 to
something like it
90.
was one of those years. I don't remember the
Yep.
exact one. I'm not trying to be coy, but
No, 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 no.
it was
Just would
it was a really interesting experience because they just sort of forgot that you were there and that there was somebody with an X and a Y chromosome there. And it was extremely enlightening as they decided that my presence wasn't really an issue when they lapsed into the only women are around behavior. It
yes.
was it was extremely enlightening, and it wasn't really a problem. It didn't really bother me. But when I would later hear people talk about men are such pigs and men are this and men are that, it's like, yeah,
You have no
people. We're
idea.
talking about people.
Mhm.
Women do plenty of stuff. Men do plenty of stuff. People are just kind of
Oh,
dreadful, but awesome at the same time. But
a-
it was kind of
absolutely.
neat to see behind the curtain because I don't think most guys see that. And I'd had another job where it was all dudes except for like this one woman who drove a forklift. Okay. And it was like literally just all dudes.
Yeah.
And that was kind of interesting too, seeing what the dynamic is like when it's all men or all women. And I can tell you I'm not really all that happy with either. I think when it's a
No,
good mix, you get much better behavior. Everybody's a lot
absolutely.
less terrible.
There are some checks on each other's excessive
Yep.
behaviors, and there's kind of chick tendencies and there's guy tendencies, and when those when there's too many guys around, the guy tendencies get a little out of hand. Same thing with chicks,
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. And yeah, I agree. When I realized after, I don't know, marriage one or marriage two, I can't remember, that women could be evil, that not all women were perfect. They were not all perfect angels. They were actually human beings and were capable of great evil. Uh, it that was a revelation to me because I kind of grew up, you know, believing that women were these perfect angels, and um, that my sisters were aberrant.
No, I definitely learned that lesson earlier and more dramatically. Unfortunately, I can't really speak to it without violating some other people's privacy.
Sure.
But I've seen some pretty terrible stuff at an early age. When
Yeah.
people go bad, they go really bad. But I don't want to
Yep.
think about that too much. Um, So I think Sora's joining us later. Speaking of evil,
Yes, that'll be a nice infusion of wickedness into
yeah,
our happy little uh, discussion.
yeah.
You know, one of the things that I was thinking about in thinking about topics for tonight is I just have been going through the individual races for Congress and senator and so forth in the U.S. elections. Why do we continually produce such low quality candidates? Seriously,
Mm,
we have far more AOCs and uh, that Matt guy on the Republican side. We have far more people with those kinds of flaws, inexperience, selfishness, insecurity, inability to manage or legislate, or even be anything more than a shill for the whatever narrative they represent. Why do we keep producing those? Why can't we produce quality elected officials and quality bureaucrats? That doesn't seem too hard. When I think of all of the things, all of the occupations that I know about, and that's a lot, uh, I know what the hard occupations are. I know what politicians do for a living. I know what bureaucrats do for a living. Tremendous detail. It's none of those jobs are any ever enter into the, in my opinion, top 30% toughest jobs to do in the world. But we get continually bad people. Uh, Why does our system do that? Why do we keep shoving mediocrity up toward the top? Is that
it,
just collective error just compounding itself until you can't choose a good person because they have too many distinctive characteristics?
well, there's multiple things going on. You know, the last thing you're sort of touching on is sort of the any club that would have you as a member you don't want to join, right? You know,
Well,
it's sort of the idea that anybody who's interesting, right? Anybody who's interesting in the sense that they're
find something better to
intellectual
do.
or they've done well, no, not so much that. Not so
Oh,
much
okay.
that. That somebody who's interesting, who has a complicated life and a complicated set of experience, will have done at
Mhm.
least one thing that disqualifies them in terms of what the public is looking for, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Very.
that's one aspect. One aspect.
Mhm.
The other one is the one you were just talking about, that why would any sane person who's got the right skills want to do something like this? Now,
Exactly.
there was a sense that government service was a noble calling 100 years ago.
Hmm.
And then we've had everything from the Gulf of Tonkin to Watergate to Iran Contra. You just keep going through the lists of things. Again, I'm not saying anything's right or wrong, but in terms of the public perception of the office, the executive, you see enough of these things, and gradually over time, the image of the government servant has become incredibly tarnished. So, and justifiably so.
Hmm.
Justifiably so. So, if you're a person and you're born, suppose you're a, I don't know, 1/4 African American, 1/8 Native American, female lesbian. Okay, just something. You tick all the boxes. So, I mean,
Hmm.
basically, you could run if you wanted to. And you've got a good college education, you've got organizational skills, you're likable, you've got like 125 IQ, smattering of legal background. Just tick all the boxes.
Hmm.
Why would that person choose to be in government when they could be doing literally anything else? I mean, in terms of the money, if unless you want to be corrupt, there's no
Oh, yeah.
way in hell that that person wouldn't make 10 to 100 times as much money working in the
In
private
industry.
sector.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, yes.
Yeah. Creating jobs, making things, doing whatever. And even of the people
Yes.
who do choose to do this. Now, you might have people who have accomplished a lot in life. They have enough money. They don't care about money anymore. I mean, they're rich enough that they don't need to be bothered by it.
Larry Ellison,
So they may just
President
choose.
of the United States.
They may just choose to run for office, right? And
Yeah.
that's a thing you see in a lot of other countries. You look at the new prime minister of Great Britain is obscenely wealthy. I mean, we're talking about somebody that he may even make Macron look like a beggar. And Macron
Wow.
is a Rothschild's banker, Jupiterian.
Right, yeah, he's a fucking French banker.
He's a French banker. So there's like I don't give a shit money, and then there's like the amount of money that the new prime minister of Great Britain has. He was born in the UK from an Indian immigrant family that's got tons and tons of money coming from just industry and stuff from India all over the world. I mean, they are loaded.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
It's like, some kid thinks they're rich because they get a G-Wagon when they get their driver's license. His question is, which Gulfstream is he going to get? That doesn't even cover the whole difference in the amount of money. So this guy's loaded. These kind of people can afford to run for office and not be corrupt. They don't have to be. I mean, why? There's no money in it. So you do it for the adulation, you do it for the challenge, you do it for whatever. Because there really isn't a whole lot of challenge left in private industry for those folks. There aren't a lot of those people around. There's not a lot of people like that.
Rishi Sunak, is that how you say it?
I believe so.
And
I would just call him Shemp because I can't pronounce people's names.
Yeah, Shemp. We're intellectuals here at Minions of the Zoo. Yeah, Rishi Sunak is officially took over as Britain's 57th Prime Minister of the week. No, just kidding, 57th ever. On Tuesday, vowing to fix the mistakes made by his predecessor, Liz Truss, who was there for a cup of coffee, and quickly worked to form a cabinet with an emphasis on continuity and stability. Boy, they should have thought of that before, huh? Continuity and stability. You would have think that would have occurred to Liz Truss, but no, huh? Oh my goodness.
She was a difference maker. See, he's a difference eraser. That's the difference.
Oh yeah. And let's see. Mr. Sunak decided to keep James Cleverly, who supported Boris Johnson in the most recent leadership contest, simply on the basis of his name. Ben Wallace, who was built a high profile as defense secretary, also keeps his post. Wallace had supported Boris Johnson in the leadership race. Interesting. Mr. Sunak also reappointed Suella Braverman because she is braver than any man, he said. 42-year-old son of immigrants who has all of the money won the Conservative Party contest to replace Ms. Truss on Monday, just 7 weeks after she took power. Now he confronts the twin challenge. The twin challenge. This is a national newspaper in Britain. Now he confronts the twin challenge of reunifying his fractured, just turn grammar on, guys. His fractured party and navigating Britain through its gravest economic crisis in a generation. And let's see, here's what else to know about Britain's leadership transition. I'll be brief. I'll just, though he was elected with only the votes of about 200 conservative lawmakers, Mr. Sunak rejected suggestions that he did not have a political mandate. He doesn't. A former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Mr. Sunak, is expected to pull Britain back to more mainstream policies after Ms. Truss failed experiment in trickle-down economics, which rattled financial markets and damaged Britain's fiscal reputation.
Yeah, by the way,
let that soak in for a minute.
Her exercise in trickle-down economics was going to be to try to stimulate the economy by cutting taxes by 1% to 2%.
Right.
Oh my God, 1% to 2% back in the hands of people who create jobs. That's like this. So yeah, this newspaper is full of crap. But
I don't get that people cannot understand that, and say it with me, everybody, wherever you are. If you're listening to this broadcast, say this to me right now. Taxation is theft. And as soon as I said the word theft, Sora Luna appeared.
She snuck in.
I didn't do it. You can't blame it
stealthily.
on me.
She's a
Luna.
good pop. She's
Stealthy
a good
Luna.
pop.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing tonight, Sora?
Very good. Sorry about being about 20 minutes later. So I'm just finishing up dinner.
Do you
Oh,
have power now?
Oh yeah, it came on around like 5 something. So exactly as I was getting up in the morning, just in time for me to have a shower. So on the
Yeah.
other day,
No
yeah,
excuse
it's
not to go to
great.
work.
Yeah, sadly.
I can't get the garage door open because the garage door opener's stuck and there's no power and I can't see and I don't wanna. Yeah, can't do any of that.
Mainly the last bit.
Yeah.
I like this. Tyrannus Alexandrius in chat says taxation isn't theft; it is the price of civilization. And I hear what you're saying.
No, me
I
not
don't.
killing people for fun is the price of civilization.
Yeah.
Taxation is theft.
The social contract is what I would say is the price of civilization. The as Harry said, the agreement that we all make to drive on one side of the road and not shoot each other at will. The problem is when the government becomes dependent, like an addict, which is really what has happened on taxation, and it builds more parts of itself that cause it to need more money, almost exactly like a drug addict. And the only thing for it is to wean it off its drug. And we need to cut down the amount of drug that the government is taking because it does too many unproductive, silly things, wasting the precious capital of civilization. Basically, all civilization has is time, opportunity, and trust in one another. That's what builds wealth in economics. A bank is just a list and a bunch of people who trust the list. That's literally all that is. Um, those are the things that we have to uh, build a civilization. When you start taxing the population, it puts an efficiency damper on that money, on the economic potential of the capital that you're removing from the people who accumulated that capital. You are taking basically their seed corn and eating it. Now, you gotta stay alive, and you have to have a government, and the government has to have a way of raising money, but it doesn't have to be through taxes. There are lots of activities the government can do that don't involve going up to the door of private citizens with the government gun and demanding that uh, give us your money or we'll kill you or we'll end your life in society. I don't
Well,
know.
we'll
That's
remove your personal liberty. We'll
right.
basically
Exactly.
make your life meaningless.
Exact and the problem is that builds a culture of control, of people looking to be controlled and people willing to control them, and that's the the badness of the situation that we're in right now. We have a bunch of people who wanna be taken care of and a bunch of people who don't have their best interests at heart saying, "Oh, elect us. We'll take care of you. We'll take all your money, but don't worry. We'll provide for you. At least there will be bread in the bread lines." And you get that attitude that Bernie Sanders expressed so eloquent. At least there was bread. Bread lines should, but at least there was bread. Uh, fuck you. With capitalism, we get to choose what kind of bread we want.
Yeah, he's six home socialist.
and
Fucking
and
asshole.
I hate that rhetoric because yeah, they're bread until that bread ran out
Mhm.
Right.
and the bread
Un-
line was still hours long.
Until there's no fuel for the baker's oven, and there's no
Yes.
bread.
The
There's no
lines.
wheat for the
Hmm.
baker's mill, and there's
I would
nothing.
have. I would have answered back to Bernie. I would have said the lines always outlast the bread. In capitalism, the bread always outlasts the lines. That's the difference.
Unless it's a cronut. Are
Well, you
people
know what I
still
mean.
excited about cronuts? Sora?
Um, I, I've only ever seen it once here. I'm not sure. I think it went the way of the rainbow bagel.
Okay, because you're one of my foodiest friends, so I was curious if you'd actually had a cronut. I've only heard of them, like
I've had
like
it.
this
I've
mythical
had
creature.
one. It
Okay.
Guys,
it's
cronuts
okay.
are shaped like a donut, but the pastry inside is kind of like from a croissant,
It's like
right? Is that what we're talking
a
about?
croissant. Yeah.
But it's still
And then
fried, isn't it?
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
dip it in sugar, glaze it,
It is.
and fry it, right?
It's fried puff pastry dipped
Huh.
in death, is what it is. It's
Right.
yeah.
What's wrong with that?
It's tasty, but it's one of those things that it's overly sweet. So
Oh, okay.
at least the one I tried. Yeah. I think it's fine. I mean, if you're gonna go for any sort of donut type fried dough dessert, it's as good as any
Mhm.
other.
Now, are cronuts made with real crows?
Thankfully, not the one I had. It was a vegan one.
Mm,
Got these
So I
tweezers.
don't know.
yeah, no
Takes a lot of
feathers,
crows.
as I can
Simulated
tell.
crow.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm flashing on when I see an elephant fly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of singing crows. Uh, like I said, it's just a stroke. I'll be fine.
Well, you were talking about government. And so
Yes.
I always like a good thought experiment, and this one's actually sort of grounded in history because a lot of my knowledge of history is probably obsolete. I did a lot of reading a long time ago, and I haven't kept up on it. But there was a theory that one of the first governments was formed in places like Egypt, and it was surrounding water rights because you have this commodity which is essential to agriculture, to life, to all sorts of things, and you only have a limited amount of it, or you only have limited access to it because of waterfront property, right?
Okay.
So imagine if you have 100 people living near a river, and the river can only support so much stuff. So you would, once a month, you just say, okay, we just randomly pick and say, okay, so Fred is going to be in charge of figuring out what we do with the water. And then next month it's going to be Wilma. And then next month after that it's going to be Joe. And then we just keep rotating. Over time, what happens is eventually people say, I don't really care. I don't want to do this. It's boring. I've got other things to do. Fred did a good job. Let's just let Fred keep doing it. And then Fred, some guy comes over to Fred and says, hey, look, I really would kind of like a little bit more water. And if you do that, I'll make it worth your while. And then the cycle of corruption continues. And before you realize it, we've got fast forward a few thousand years, you've got the military industrial complex. And all you've got is a bunch of people that instead of actually doing something, they make money by essentially using the power of the government to benefit some people over others. That's all government is.
That's a huge problem. That really is. Boy.
I don't trust him to be a politician because he's rich. Honestly, the rich guy who's worried about his legacy, he stands a better chance than being the guy who I know isn't making enough money. Somebody's going to dangle, money and women and drugs and all sorts of stuff in front of him. And next thing, Swalwell, you end up with Hunter
Biden.
Yeah, you end up with what we end up with. You end up with incompetent people that are basically crooks looking for a piece of the action for the big guy.
Or if they're not corrupt that way, it's by a mannequin you can control. The AOC or Ilhan Omar routine where they're, or Joe Biden actually, where they're controlled to some extent by a back office cabal.
Well, you remember Leon Panetta?
Yes, I knew him personally.
I know.
I've told you about that.
Leon Panetta was basically given a full ride to law school by the labor unions, like the AFL-CIO.
Mm-hmm.
He basically was groomed, bought, and paid for. I mean, it's not a bad guy necessarily. I mean, I've met him a few times too.
He's a sweet guy.
He's not a bad guy, but he was basically groomed and bought and paid for by these labor unions.
Mm-hmm.
And they essentially got him into a position where he would be ready to run for office.
Yeah.
And then a situation came around where I think it was what was the guy's Bert Talcott
Bert Alcott.
got
Okay.
got into some hot water, a little scandal kicked up, and that was the
Mhm.
opportunity to bring in Leon Panetta as a Democrat, and he was in office, I don't know, forever.
Yes. Yes.
Like forever until he
He was-
eventually retired and then ended up in the administration as, what was it, Secretary of Defense?
Yeah,
about 10 years ago.
In 1978, he was in office when I was a young financial officer at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey. That's how I
Yep.
got to know him. He came by for the the only time he visited was when it came time to do the budgeting for the school. And part of that was he was an important ally in what the military refers to as the Program Objective Memorandum, which is the funding document that funds all of the military. All of it comes out of this thing called the Program Objective Memorandum, and they call it the Palm Festival. It's always held in Pensacola. And so, they were getting me ready to go to the Palm Festival with all our funding documents, which I was taking. And part of that was making sure that Congressman Panetta was on board, which is what I called him.
We didn't call him Leon.
No, I was such a formal, and with the provost of the PG school. It was the three of us in the meeting. It was a guy named Jack Borsting, who actually has a Wikipedia article on him. He's an interesting guy. And, he was a guy who Leon Panetta just thought walked on water. And so it was an interesting meeting between the three of us, with Leon Panetta just respecting the hell out of Jack Borsting, and Jack and I, who had a day-to-day working relationship, Jack and Frank, right?
Nice.
And me worshiping Leon Panetta because he was a congressman. It was a meeting I will never ever forget. The first time we got together, and just went through this giant package of documents and went through it. And the second year, I had to do that for 2 years, and he was there both times. The second year, he came back and he actually remembered who I was. He remembered that I had been there last year. I was so impressed with that. Anyway, how are you going?
So, I mean, it's not that I'm not saying he's incompetent or anything like that. I'm simply saying that people with money groomed him to be in a position to be in the right place at the right time if an opportunity presented itself, and it did.
Yes.
And then that's how his career started. Harry Truman, that was the Pendergrass machine that basically brought him up, right? He was a haberdasher or something originally.
Yes, he was a hat. Yes, exactly. He had a haberdashery shop, which is now a shrine of some sort.
And you know how AOC got chosen? It was, what was it, the Justice Democrats, I think?
Yes, it was a contest, basically.
It was Cenk Uger's outfit that he started and then he lost control of.
Find the perfect little liberal in the perfect little district. Oh, look what we found.
Yeah.
And I can't put the fault for AOC completely at Cenk's feet, even though he's an idiot. He's a fool, but I don't think he wants evil. I think his emotions get the better of him, and he just says stupid things out loud, and it's fun to watch. But I don't know why I went.
I think he's more. I think he's a little more corrupt than that, honestly.
Really?
I think if he thinks it's going to benefit him and his people he cares about, a little lying, totally okay. And I don't mean just a regular amount of political lying. I mean, like he will work. He will work the system if he's going to get something out of it. Because he's one of the good people. He deserves it.
Well, yeah, and that's the rationalization is that it's about time these people got something. So even though I'm lying here or cheating or stealing or maybe even making a decision that could hurt another human being, it's worth it because long term. That's the other thing, that was Hitler's rationale too, by the way. Long term, a little pain right now, but long term.
Yeah, you'll thank me later. So Sora, I know that in the Soviet Union and in a number of the former Soviet bloc countries, they had very much a two-tier system. So if you were in good with the party and you were an inner circle party member, you could shop at different stores that had more stuff, and there was just all sorts of benefits to being one of the good people. How many examples do you know of? I mean, because I think you know more about Eastern Europe than I do. How many of them? I mean, are you familiar with any of these little schemes?
Getting visas to exit the country. So, like, if you wanted to, and this is like end of 70s, 80s. Certain people didn't have to worry whether or not they'll be able to get a visa to go to like Turkey for a beach vacation, for
Was
example.
this under Ceausescu, or
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember? Okay.
Yeah. Or others will be like denied and for no apparent reason, but you can't ask because asking for an explanation paints a target.
Mm.
So that I know that's one.
They got better housing, but didn't they? You'd get much better housing assignments.
You basically get put in the nice buildings where one single owner may have owned, say like a mid-sized apartment building or something. I say apartment, these are very old homes, right? They'll be maybe built in the 30s or earlier. And they would have up to that point legally owned it, right? It was passed down from your parents or grandparents. Well, that no longer exists. So they would put, the niece of a party member would be put there. Or you would get like a plum job, like you would be a teacher in high school, but you never had to show up to work.
Nice.
But you would have a teacher salary and pension. So it'd be things like that from what I know from obviously anecdotal stories. But in terms of food and stuff, I'm sure for example, you would have to wait in a line, you wouldn't have to do anything, you'd be able to, shop the latest fashions or whatever. Though that wasn't really such a big thing, at least where my family's from, because fabrics were abundant. There was seamstresses. You could make really nice clothes. People still went to the theater. There was operas. There was a lot. They had it better than some, than other countries, for sure. But there's the little things too, right? Most likely your power won't get shut off as a tactic. You might have hot water.
Oh, you mean like Jenna does to her kids when they misbehave?
Hey, let me tell you something that's effective.
Yeah. First, I'm going to turn your power off so you can't charge all your devices. Second, I'm going to take the door off your bedroom.
I was going to say, I have taken the door off the bedroom of my daughter and 2 of my granddaughters.
That happened to one of my good friend's youngest sister. There's 3 of them. She wouldn't stop slamming the door. So her dad said, "Okay, you've lost privilege of a door. You obviously can't handle the responsibility." I was there when that happened. I felt embarrassed for her. I was just thinking, oh my God, if that was me, I would have just given up on life there and then.
Yeah.
I was like, that's it. There's no going forward from that. But yeah, she didn't have a door. Like they put up a curtain, so she had privacy and everything.
Yeah,
but
that's
no
what we do too. We put up the beads.
I think she didn't have a door for like a full year.
So it's like an episode of Rhoda.
Yeah. Nice callback. Yeah, absolutely.
Valerie Harper.
Valerie Harper.
Cut.
Yeah. Excellent.
She is married
Hi,
to
Adam. How
Moore's
you doing,
friend.
buddy?
I was gonna say, what did I walk into? But I don't know if I'm gonna be
Hey, Adam.
knocking on a door or opening some beads or whatever.
I'm just glad you could come by tonight. It's awfully nice to see. We were just talking about. I was looking through stuff and trying to find out, what is the origin of the name Romania. because when I was growing up in Belgium, they don't call it Romania; they call it Romania, or actually, I think it was Romania or something like that in French. And I've heard people say Romania in English.
I've seen it spelled like that, like the either RU or ROU.
Yes,
It's
or
weird.
ROU is how we were taught to spell it, the French way, the francophone way. But the RU mania is, I think, just a oh, what is it when you make a word just based on the
Like
phonetics?
anglicized.
Yeah, a phononym or something like that. Anyway, people heard the French Roumanie and they said, "Oh, Romania must be Romania." But it comes from the old Roman Empire, does it not?
Yeah, they had the Romans conquered the Dacians around that area.
That was wasn't that Maximianus Thrax? I think that was the guy. He defeated the Germans. And then Diocletian seemed like he split the empire one time, and a couple of Thracians.
I think there's some Dacians. There's some.
I hear
Galerian,
Thracians?
All I think
Maximanus.
is
Thracians, I think,
and
maybe.
Yeah, 3 Thracians became rulers: Galerian, Maximianus, and the Great Constantine, the patron of my fraternity, the Sigma Chi fraternity, and we all take everything under the great saying of Constantine, which is, "In this sign you shall conquer," which his mother-in-law saw while she was doing shrooms one night. But that's another story.
We still have Roman walls. We still have Roman baths, though they were.
Isn't there some amazing amphitheater it's like in amazingly good shape? Is that in Romania?
That I'm not.
Famous
I'm not sure.
amphitheater in Romania.
I mean, things are possible, but I'm not sure. Sadly, I don't really know, or shamefully, I should say, don't know that much of that. But one thing's for sure: Romans can build a good wall.
Oh yeah,
those
good roads too.
Good
yeah,
road.
those don't fall, man.
And aqueducts.
Oh yes.
Let's see. List of Roman amphitheaters in Romania. Wow. I think it would be fair to say there's a shitload of Roman amphitheaters. Okay,
more
this
than
is
one?
what I was remembering, is that there were a lot of them, and I understand. I think that's what I was remembering. Let's start with the A's. Aardvarkius. No, I'm just kidding. No, there really are quite a few. I mean, this spreadsheet goes on for a long goddamn time. Interesting. That yeah, I've got a list of all the amphitheaters in Romania, and list of Roman amphitheaters in Romania. How cool is that? A lot of them. All right.
Whoa.
I think that's okay for you guys to call yourself Romania. Go ahead.
Hold on.
Thank you for that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know that nice Ceausescu couple will be so relieved.
How
are they doing, by the way?
Can I address something from chat?
Oh yeah.
Please do.
Richard Head said, "I don't think Adam or Sora is familiar with Rhoda. Isn't Rhoda an old TV character?"
Oh yes. Yeah. It was a very popular show. In fact, it was called The Colossus of Rhoda at one point.
Well, no, but she was a spin-off of another TV show.
Mary Taylor Moore.
Yeah.
Mary Taylor Made.
Yeah,
that was the Mad parody.
Which you kids maybe know because Betty White was on it.
The fuck is Betty White?
No.
What do you mean? Who's Betty? You don't know who Betty White is?
I know who
Seriously?
Rhoda is, but you don't know who.
No, you know who Betty White
Okay, okay. You know.
You know
What are you
who
doing,
Betty
man?
White is. Come on, man.
Come
You know
on,
who's-
man.
Come on, man.
I know.
I mean, it's
come
okay
on,
if you
I
want to,
know.
if you want to, you know, come at me, but come on, Betty deserves better.
No, I know
what
who
you
Betty
did.
White is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, I'm having a goof. Come on, I know who Rhoda is.
Come on, man.
It's one of those things though where it is a sliver because
Hey,
I can
shh.
see where it's like shit. Yeah, but I'm old. Sora's probably younger, a hell of a lot younger than I. So.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. You're fucking old as shit. So,
That's what I thought.
no, there you go.
Everybody's old except for Geodes.
Except for Geodes. Oh no.
But no, I agree, Richard. I have no idea about Rhoda. No.
Oh,
But the
It's an
Rhoda
old
show,
TV
But,
show.
I have
It's
now
an
looked
old
it up on
TV show.
IMDb, so thank you for that.
it was one of those spin-offs that actually worked.
yeah.
I
They're
mean,
like the spin-off of
if you're into that.
Sanford and Sons. Yeah. It's old TV show stuff. It's TV guide type of shit.
But
I'm
yeah.
enjoying the fashion. Like, I'm looking through the photos. It's very cute. Lots
Mhm.
of
A lot of boots.
polyester-looking things.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. That was the time, right?
The way names got the way Hungary's or the way different countries got their name, it's very interesting. France being derived from the Franks, which was like a migrating German tribe, like the Anglii, which is where England comes from, and Russia. I think that came from didn't they call themselves the Rus? The RUS. I seem to remember a map in my brain showing the raiders in this area were called Rus, RUS, and that's where Russia comes from. Hungary,
Kiev Roof.
Romanians of
is
unusual size.
yes, exactly. Hungary is named not after whether or not you're hungry. It's named after the Huns, and they established first language and name of that country.
Yeah.
Well, you
And,
gotta
the
remember a lot of
Magyar
that.
people live there now, but they call it Hungary.
Yeah.
Bulgaria is named after the Turkic folks who conquered that area, and they conquered it 1,400 years ago, and were almost immediately overrun by the Slavs. They took a Slavic language, but the only thing that survived was Bulgaria's name. Poor Bulgaria. Seems kind of sad.
Little known fact: the Huns were renowned for their love of sweet tea.
But here's my point, and I am getting to it. My point, and I do have one, is that Romania is the name of the country for not a very long time. In fact, there are a lot of evidence that the territory was well known as Dacia, even during
Dacia,
or Dacia. Sorry,
There's a whole they made a whole car brand out of it.
Real.
They drive quite well.
I was gonna say,
they're a nice car.
is that like the car?
Yeah. My godfather has one. It's a really nice car.
But one of the cool things about this was that Tudor Vladimirescu, revolution of 1821, he called himself and his people Dacians, or Dacians. Dacians I like because it means they could be descended from dachshunds. In letters sent to other foreign dignitaries, including Ypsilanti. Yes, that's where the name of the town in Michigan comes from. Ypsilanti. What do Greeks want from us? Stations? It seems that the Transylvania intellectuals during the 1800s movements tried to get clearly separated from Magyarization and have a sit down at the table of Austria-Hungary and get into the Habsburg situation, I guess. And they inflated the Latin origin of the Vlach-Dacian majoritar population and claimed their origin as Roman from Rome. Romans only conquered about 17% of Dacian territory inhabited by numerous tribes. So it's kind of interesting. It wasn't really all Roman held territory. In fact, most of Romania was not held by Rome. At least that's the way I remember it. I was nice.
Is this around the Danube?
This is around, all the rivers start with D followed by the letter N, just to piss you off.
The Danube does go through it.
Well, hold on. So
And they're all derived. They're all derived from Danube.
But why are they trying to piss me off? That doesn't seem
because
fair.
they were running out of names for rivers.
They know what they
didn't have
did.
a lot.
No, you know what you
Goddamn.
did.
Let's do something with DN. There aren't any rivers
forgot.
with DN. Let's do that.
Oh man.
Hey, Sora, what's the
I
deal
think-
with that?
Well,
What were you
it's very
thinking?
obvious. Somebody did not do their homework.
Mhm.
So the night before, in a scramble on the way to school, they just vomited on a page, and that's how you got the names.
It's like
Gee,
Chicago. You know, you got the Bulls, the Bears.
Mhm.
Same general idea.
Hold
Do
on.
you know what Chicago means? Do you know what Chicago? Does anybody know what Chicago means without looking it up?
No.
No.
Chicago is named for a noxious plant that grows on the shores of Lake Michigan. Skunk
That was-
cabbage. And the Native American name for skunk cabbage is Chicago.
Mm.
Oh
That
my
is where
god.
that name
is
comes from.
unfortunate.
Skunk cabbage, Illinois.
Chicago.
I'm going to nickname somebody Chicago. It's going to be fun because he won't be in on the joke.
Yes, exactly.
That's like something George Bush would have done, you know, right up to Turd Blossom. Hey, Turd Blossom, get over
Ah,
here.
Turd
Chicago. Get Chicago in here.
So technically, where I'm from,
Mhm.
so was not a part of Romania until about 1918,
So you're from the southeastern part?
southwest.
Southwestern
Hold
part.
on.
Oh,
I thought you were
southwestern
from
part, right,
Canada.
yeah.
Now, yes,
Oh, now. Oh, okay. Okay.
I wasn't born
Wow.
here.
Wow. This is okay.
She got in
look.
one of those planes.
Well,
One of those
no.
plane things, eh?
Sora.
Flew to Canada.
Sora's story has been ever evolving. So
Has
I'm
it?
just
Even
Yes,
as she
it's-
lives.
she's got videos, she's doing this and that, and she's from this and there, and all right. So what next?
There's
Sora?
layers.
Yeah, layers.
I am an onion.
Ugh.
Exactly.
I think-
Peel away one layer, and what do you have? More onion.
that makes sense. I'm not really a big fan of onions.
I know.
Maybe that's my odd.
I won't hold it against you.
I don't like onions, but I want to see what's on the next layer. So
Mm.
please
Well,
continue.
Technically, I guess I'm Austro-Hungarian. If you want to go back that far.
Whoa, I
Mm.
mean, it's not like it's an AA meeting or anything. I'm Austro-Hungarian, and I'm
Well, yeah, it's a
also
part of the country
My
that
name
was.
My name is Sora. I'm an Austro-Hungarian.
it's like, holy shit. It's like, all right.
If you think about modern history, right? If we say modern history is in the last 200 something years, like with
Mhm.
modern warfare and stuff, it would have been Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Okay, hold on.
And
No,
then the borders were redrawn.
you say Austro-Hungarian, and then in my goofy brain, in terms of recent history, it's just Napoleonic War type shit. It's empire wars, and yeah, the borders are always changing. Who knows? Austro-Hungarian, Prussian. What are these?
Well, people used to fight because it was really expensive and painful to make anything. You know, there wasn't enough iron. Making a plow was expensive. Making a sword was expensive. Everything was just a pain in the ass. So it was way easier just to like get a bunch of people, hike a long way, and then go take stuff from somebody else. And that's largely what war was. You bring back slaves, cattle, plows, whatever iron they could back, whatever you could basically carry back, you just go get it because it was way easier than making your own. And then things went forward, and you ended up with things like nation states. And then you had idiots in charge of nation states who cared about like stuff like their ego.
Lineage.
And so we ended up with a lot of people in Europe, once countries became sort of proper countries with a national identity, just killing each other for no particularly good reason before the 20th century and into the beginning of the 20th century. So history is really understandable when you just sort of realize what the motivation was. I mean, initially it was just war was a labor-saving device, and then later it became like this big nationalistic ego thing. You know, for you could have things like empire in the name of your country.
I kind of put my eggs in the basket of it's a two-way game to just constantly keep people fighting with each other.
I mean, the Romans didn't go into England or into Britain for their health. They went there because there were things like tin.
Mm-hmm.
And tin was something that they needed to make all that stuff that, you know, was
It's their
painful
alloy.
and expensive. Yeah.
Wait. Rome going into Britain for tin?
Yep.
Yeah.
The
tin mines in the where was that the Lake District? Where were the tin mines?
There's several of them, but it wasn't just the tin mines. It was also the fact that there were some extremely skilled metal workers there too. So the Romans had good economic reasons for going to England. It wasn't because the English looked at them funny and they said, "We'll teach you a lesson." It was more like, "No, you got stuff we want. We're gonna go take that, and in return, we'll give you plumbing and reading and civilization." And honestly, the English came out way ahead on this deal.
Okay. Forgive my ignorance. I'm trying to recap, I believe. I could be wrong, but from what I recall, Rome encountered the Isle of Britain with Caesar, and then eventually it grew and expanded up towards the, I guess, Scotland, if you want to make it there, you know. But it never really gained anywhere outside of just trade and fortresses. Where did this encounter come?
Well, they ended up with things like Hadrian's Wall. And unfortunately, the Scots were less than cooperative and didn't think that the creation of towns like Londinium was all that much fun for them. They were much happier just being Scottish and contrary and not giving into it. Eventually, trying to extend the empire all the way into Britain just to get some tin was just too expensive.
Hold on. There's a vast distance between Hadrian's Wall and Londinium. Also, where in the hell is tin coming in? Because this was a vast outpost for Rome. They considered Gaul as an outpost. Like, they didn't even look at Gaul as anything that would be worth.
No, you were right, Adam. You're exactly right. They regarded Gaul as wild lands, and they had pretty much the same idea about Londinium. The Tin Coast is down on the bottom left side of England.
I can see it
down around Cornwall.
Nothing that would be anything of note, I would say. It's that's kind of odd. This is the first I've heard of it, at least.
Yeah. Well, you know how we go halfway around the world to get oil? They went halfway around their world to get tin.
I also
easily get tin.
I also know of people saying that certain countries have weapons of mass destruction. So I'm not of liberty of saying
those used to be bronze spears.
Yes. But you know, it's hey, we're also forgoing the metal workers of the Minnesotan tribes out in North America. So there's so much in terms of history that we got to look at. But that's why I'm fascinated by it.
Well, the mining actually was that started in England. Mining tin was before the Romans. This was 2150 BC.
Well, they used to trade tin, but why trade for it when you can just go take it?
Right,
well,
exactly.
Well, only because tin is something that, especially in the Middle East, they were looking at, especially after the collapse of the Bronze Age. So I mean, yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a gold mine, so to speak, in Britannia, and Rome figured out to go mine it. I'd like to look into it. It'd be interesting. More stuff to listen to while I work. That's what I look at it. So
But there you go. Yeah, they also there's also tungsten down there. I didn't know that in Southwest Devon, Harry. I did not know that. I guess that's where the Romans got the filaments for the light bulbs.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you got to get the tungsten, the wolfram they called it. You got to get it from somewhere, right?
No, they stole the technology for the light bulb from North Africa.
Yes, of course. Well, Wakanda. How silly of me.
Well, no, Egyptians had it first. They had it,
and they just wanted to walk like an Egyptian.
Well, no, they inscribed it in their description.
Nobody gets my jokes. That's okay. It's part of being old.
Yeah, just throwing bangles to the swine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harry.
You're welcome
for doing that. Somewhere Debbie Peterson smiles. Yeah. My God.
But history's fun.
History is. I get so fascinated by it. It shuts me up. Which
it's funny to see a timeline of a place that's so central in history, because it's basically like a game of hot potato between invading forces. It's fun. I mean, if you ignore the fact that who knows how many people died, but probably a good chunk of the peasants were kept, because it's like, who else is going to feed you?
It's more of like a game of tackle bucket. Okay, it's your turn to sit on the bucket. It's your bucket. Congratulations. And then you just sit there and wait to get tackled. Well, if you look at the Fertile Crescent, between the Tigris and the Euphrates, what would typically happen is strong, the whole strong men create, was it calm times create weak men, that whole thing. Well, that's basically what happened. And every few hundred years, some group of barbarians would come down, take things over, have a bunch of kids. The kids would mouse utopia themselves into uselessness, and then a few hundred years would pass, and then more people would come in who were more vigorous and less lazy, and they would take over. And this would just happen because you lived in this place that had two big-ass rivers that just flowed toward your land. So every now and then some guy would get bored and say, hey, let's just get on a raft and we'll go down there. We'll be nice and rested because it'll be a nice little river trip. And then we'll just go sack stuff. We'll just go take that over. And they would just do that because there was essentially two superhighways heading to their civilization. So it was really easy for the invaders to get there, versus other places that actually had natural defenses. And you would see more continuity of government that lasted more generations when you didn't have just like I said, two superhighways for people to come and invade you going into your country. So geography is actually really, really important in terms of history. And if you're lucky enough to be born in a place that has abundant resources, but has something that keeps other people from just coming in and taking you over all the time, you actually get a chance to build something without it just being torn down. And that's one of the reasons why the Fertile Crescent never really, grew to become this world-dominating thing that's still around today. Whereas other places were more defensible.
It was constantly bombarded between, or I guess you can say it was like a tide on a beach. between the mountainous regions of the Levant and the
Mhm.
seas of the Mediterranean. Ba, 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 ba. There's your poetic bit. But I'll just always go and say I blame the sea people.
Yeah,
Those
the sea
fucking
people.
sea people, they always come in
Sea
and just
people.
ruin everything.
And the crab people.
The ones in front of the D people or the
Yeah.
E people or the F people? I put the ruins of an old Cornish tin mine that blew
Oh,
in back
well,
is
hey,
the Atlantic Ocean, and just over beyond those clouds is America. But
listen,
that's
Skep,
looking out
Skep.
on the southwest part of England right there. I thought it was just a cool picture.
It
Little
is.
tumbly down house. Anyway,
But Egypt had much better layout in terms of a lot of things. You had a river that would flood and essentially fertilize all the fields, and then during a big chunk of the year, you really just had nothing to do. So you could put people to work making big ass monuments. So there was plenty of food, there was plenty of water, everything got fertilized. You had people with enough free time on their hands. You could say, "Go build a giant pyramid there and carve my name in the rock on top." And they had sort of they were a little bit hard to get to because all the stuff sort of to the south and the west was kind of not a place you would want to just casually go traipsing through. It was not a most inviting trip to get there. So all you really had to do was sort of defend that one little pass of land and the Mediterranean. So until the great sea powers started up and you had the Hellenes come in with Alexander the Great, the Egyptians had a pretty good run. Every now and then somebody would come in and take over for 150 years. It was the Hittites. But for the most part, they were able to build like this great civilization because they didn't just get rototilled every 200 to 300 years like the Tigris and Euphrates civilizations did.
yeah, that was a pretty active corridor going up there from the Tigris and Euphrates of the Fertile Crescent up north. That was a place where the times were interesting for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you could probably argue that turbulence has continued pretty much unbroken to today. I can't remember a stretch where the area between the Tigris and Euphrates hasn't been in conflict or war ever. Nothing really jumps out at me. When was the last big pan peace in the caliphate?
Well, they had to
Don't
build those
remember it.
hanging gardens at some point. Whenever,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, when the Iraqis talk about hanging gardens, that makes me nervous.
yeah, I think they misunderstood the translation.
It's a garden. It's very nice. The gallows are right over there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was one of the seven wonders of the world at one
It
point
was
of the
indeed.
ancient world.
Oh, I've visited back a couple of thousand years before Christ, and it was very
School
nice.
trip. It was a
Yeah,
school trip.
school trip, and it was a school trip, as a matter of fact, when I was second grade. And
Did you raise money by selling scroll subscriptions?
yeah, well, we actually did it by uh, uh, stealing little orphans and slave children, and then slaughtering them and selling the meat for sandwiches.
Well, as one does, yeah.
You know, well, it's different times, different customs, right? We didn't really do that. I'm just kidding. Just say things to make fun, make happy. Didn't sell them. We gave the meat away.
You doing okay there, Skep?
I'm doing absolutely fine.
Okay.
I'm just kind of talk of history and civilizations and things like that. There's nothing like that to just put me inside my head and I just take off, which is a terrible thing to do when you're trying to run a show. Because I start thinking about all that stuff, and then I want to start looking things up about it. And typical of my personality type, I jump from things to thing. but it can make me very quiet. What is chat up to out here? I'm seeing something about spittle buggies being. Did you get a 7-day ban? I'm looking here. Let's see. This is what I'm. Let's see. I haven't even said anything to get in trouble. Then a permanent ban. Oh, okay. Yes, I also have been banned for 7 days in my early. That was in my early Twitter days, about 2017, 2018. I learned you have to be polite and try and be kind of a stealth guy. If you're going to be critical of somebody, you have to be very kind about it. You can't use naughty words. You can't even imply the idea that violence ever existed anywhere in any space-time continuum.
Mm-hmm.
And then just be devastating in your put down, but be very polite about it. That's the trick with Twitter. I had to make myself very polite, and I had to lose the swear words. And I've been reported a number of times since then, and I occasionally get caution notice. Do you want to read the article first? No. I want to send it to my friends first. Asshole. Thanks for asking.
Honestly, that's probably gonna be the hardest thing to kick is swear words. God help me. I just cannot help but just uttering a fuck or a shit or a cunt. It's just you have to say it.
But you don't. You don't. And you don't on Twitter anyway. I mean, in terms of giving advice.
Oh shit, yeah.
So that you don't get in trouble on Twitter. I that is one thing that it definitely wakes up the AI masters, and they will come after you. They will come after you.
Yes.
And it's not even necessarily somebody reporting you. They will parse your stuff if you have certain strings in your tweet. They will. You're going to have a conversation with Twitter support next time you try and log in, and that you will find yourself logged out. So yeah, I've been down that road too. I'm sorry that happened to you, spittle buggies. The 7-day will go by. There is life outside of Twitter. I was surprised to find that myself. But
there's been a few people who were getting those 7-day bans.
Spittle might be permabanned.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. I'm sorry to hear that.
That's rough.
You can usually appeal that to Twitter support, and sometimes you even get it reviewed by a human.
This is ridiculous. They shouldn't be banned for this shit. This is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. I didn't get a 7 days on my first time. I got a permanent ban notification. So you were, yeah. Oh, so you did appeal. Cool. All right, I got you. Anyway, well, I hope that works out for you. Do you have any idea what the tweet was? You should know what the tweet is that was offensive. They should have come back with you, and one of the things that they do is they make you remove it before they let you log back in. So I'm just curious to know if that happened with you. But yeah, Kiever Dam. That's what that used to happen to me. I used to get the 2-day bans too. I had one 7-day ban. I had a couple of 2 days, 1 day, 12-hour, and one 2-day ban. So I finally smartened up and decided not to keep beating my head against that wall, and move on from there. But at any rate,
yeah, I'm very well behaved. I still remember the time when I was, I think I was in junior high school. And I showed up at the library to meet some friends, and I get to the library, and they're all sitting out on the lawn in front, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? They're, we got kicked out. I'm like, how do you get kicked out of a library? I mean, because to my mind, how? I mean, what could you possibly do? And then they told me, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I got it. But see, to me, I would never get kicked out of a library.
Were they playing hide the pickle in the periodicals?
They weren't playing hide the pickle in the periodicals, but they were making a lot of noise and rummaging around, reading a lot of stuff out loud in the adult section.
The hell's hiding pickles in periodicals?
Yeah, well, it's
Use your
alliterative,
imagination.
which makes it fun.
Well,
They're playing hide the pickle. Have you ever heard the expression hide the pickle?
but okay, but hold on. Why would you waste a perfectly good gherkin and just put it in a? It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's a perfectly good gherkin.
Yeah,
Well, hence why it doesn't make any sense why they got kicked out.
exactly. Well, to my mind, I couldn't even conceive of how such a thing was possible. I was just confronted with this, like, why? Oh, really? I would have never even thought of doing that.
It'd be a nice treat, to be honest. You know, you're looking for a book, and then all of a sudden you got a pickle. You're like,
Yeah. Bonus pickle.
The last time I ever spoke to a librarian was in 1983.
Was it at the Library of Alexandria? I thought it was like 400
No, this was actually.
I was gonna say the
Richardson,
the
Texas.
librarian from
This was the Library of
Ghostbusters.
Richardson, Texas, and at the Library of Richardson, Texas, my study group that I was meet with a study group similar to what they do in law school when you go through an MBA program, and we were too loud. The five of us who were in there, we were too loud. The interesting thing was, we were also the only 5 people, except for the one staff librarian who told us to shut up in the library.
Loudly?
Certain personality.
Was it loudly that you were told to shut up?
No. She just came over. She was actually very polite, but she just told us we were being too loud because we were starting to cut up. We were getting ready to leave, and just
You were being rambunctious. Come on,
it may surprise you, but I actually was relatively young at one time. In fact, I think I was like 30 or 31 years old then. Hard to imagine, but it actually happened. Yeah. But there you go.
At one point in time.
We did not get banned from the library, fortunately, and temporary or permanent. And I hate to hear that happen to you, Spillbuggy. I do hope that you appeal successfully, because it's just silly what they're doing. But let us know how it goes. Anyway,
not that I'm encouraging fraud, but isn't it relatively easy?
Remember, disregard everything before the but.
Isn't it relatively easy to basically fake your way to another account and then sort of view it as I mean, you have to sort of start over, right? You lose your history, but at least you can sort of
Twitter's terms of service to find the answer to that, Harry.
Yeah, I'm sure that Twitter's terms of service say that that's not advisable. I'm just saying, as a practical matter, couldn't you just start over? And
we don't know what Elon Musk is going to do.
They state affirmatively that it's okay, that they understand you might have more than one, and as long as you're not trying to do anything underhanded or defraud anything, that's actually okay. That
start
is
over?
Actually okay. I was startled to find this out. I was absolutely sure it was the other way. And I actually descended into that purgatorial goo that they called their terms of service agreement, because I thought it would be like, reading terms of service. And
not dated April 1st, is it?
No, it's they actually have some contradictory stuff also in their help system about having an extra account. but that was that. I think that is actually an artifact from some of the original design documents from Twitter, and they would really prefer everybody to just have one account.
Yeah,
They don't
I only
want
have
you-
one YouTube account, and
I only have-
I definitely do not have other accounts that I use to troll my friends.
No,
No,
definitely
no,
not.
why
That would
would
be
you have that?
unethical.
That would be
Yeah, why would-
unethical.
Well, hold on, wait.
No real use. I mean, anything
Whoa,
worth
whoa,
saying
whoa,
is
whoa,
worth
whoa,
being
whoa.
said
Okay,
by
hold
you,
on. I'm
right?
gonna put my. This is a literal thing.
Mhm.
Putting my my pipe down
Mhm.
to address
You
this.
sound like Fred McMurray.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I do. So first off,
Sorry, got that.
you don't have a fucking. Okay, look. I go with you, but you gotta go with Rumble. Check out Rumble and the Minions of the Zoo
Mhm.
Rumble show.
Did we ever get the link from Hammer for that so we could actually get our 100 subscribers so we can start streaming to it?
Yeah, I think we're at like 20. No,
Well, I mean, but can we put the link like in the show description so that people can
Yeah,
join us over there? You know.
I didn't realize we had one. I'm not even on Rumble.
all right.
I'm
so
on Rumble, but
Well, you
I
better
did
get
not
ready.
realize we had a Minions of the Zoo account. I will
Got to
start
get ready to
streaming it.
rumble.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
you know,
Truth
honestly,
Social is going to
Rumble.
be it once Trump is elected, though, right?
Well, I don't know about that, but Rumble, with
Truth
Rumble,
Social is the Betamax.
I don't know. I think
the
I think
Betamax.
I think if you sign up for that, you might get on a list or something like
oh,
that.
bye.
Probably.
You will become one of these, check-ins. But no, Rumble, we are trying to expand this. I think I have a link here. And yeah, we're trying to get to at least 100 so we can start live streaming on there. I don't know what I don't know if we're gonna like move to it, but we're at least trying to push into the territory while we got it, right?
Mhm.
It's a positive thing for
Hmm.
the zoo, or no, like
I find myself intrigued with Sora's little thing, her little icon. What is that? Who is that sheriff?
It's a llama, Sheriff.
Sheriff Llama.
It was. I use Brave, and when you open up a new tab,
Hmm?
it just shows there's some sort of random image in the background,
Mhm.
and this. I think this was an ad for a game.
Mhm.
I have two different. Like I screenshotted a couple of different poses because it's so cute.
Let's have a llama and an old time cowboy hat. Okay.
It's a
With a six-
western.
6-pointed star. So we'll do a Jewish Star of David. Let's make it yellow. And also give the llama a gay hat and a monocle. Because, I love this so much. It's so silly. I just love it.
Isn't
Absolutely
it
love
cute?
it.
I have. Hold
Yeah,
on.
it's
I
so
will.
cute.
I will pull up. Let me pull up the other
Yeah, let's see it.
image. Let's see here. Where I have. This is him being. It's the tough guy image. There you go.
I'm a power bottom. You can tell by the scarf. Oh my. Yeah. I don't know who
There's a
thinks
big
yellow
guard
stars
on
of
his
David
hip.
are a good idea, but God Almighty. That is just
It
it's so
tickled me, so
horrifying.
I
Yeah, I
love it.
I can't stop looking at it. It's just perfect. Just with the jail and the bars in the background. It's great. Oh, that's in a bank. I see.
It's in a.
He's walking out of the
I'm not
bank.
sure if
Yeah,
he's
okay.
like a bad sheriff or a good sheriff. Like I don't know if he was trying to
And
rob
kind of
the
a-
bank
Whether he's
or
on the
what.
take.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Democrat sheriff. Yeah, I'm going to take your money. I'm going to take your guns. Sheriff Beta Olama. Anyway,
Don't disrespect him like that.
it was interesting to see Beto O'Rourke leading in the race with Governor Abbott. The early voting.
Beto's leading?
Yeah, at least that's what one poll by the Houston Chronicle, the People's paper, said. I'm sure they went out on the street in Houston and asked Houstonians how they felt about Beta, and Beta's support base is Houston. He claims it's all of Texas, but it's not. It's the Houston-Austin axis, and that's all he's got. That's why he won't win Texas. It's just that's not enough to give it to you. You can't have Dallas, San Antonio, and everywhere else against you and win with Austin, Houston. You can't do that in Texas. That will not work. You will not get to be governor. So, also, the Democrats could probably, I think Abbott is actually pretty vulnerable. He's not a great campaigner. He's not an impressive speaker. And the right Democrat could have, if not gotten elected, certainly scored some points in Texas. But fortunately, they put up Beta. And but according to the Houston Chronicle, yeah, he's 2 points ahead of Abbott right now in the early voting. I don't know how they know that, but they say they know that. And the thing is, it was on the internet.
Yeah, that must be true.
Well, it's a way of knowing, because obviously it's been checked before it's published on the internet. Everything is checked for accuracy and veracity. Human beings are going to make mistakes once in a while, but pretty much everything you see on the internet is true. It's legitimate. You can trust it. This is fun to say, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. The internet's your friend. It's the source of authoritative information.
You can have any authoritative information you want. So, Harry.
Yes, sir.
Internet. Good thing or bad thing? Net.
Too early to tell.
Too early to tell? Work in progress.
Work in progress.
So, still question mark, not a star.
Yeah. It was a lot better before they let in the riffraff.
Yeah, no kidding. Remember when we thought that email was the killer app?
I still remember
We were such sweet summer children.
Trying to convince business people that email was something that they needed. This was at the same time as United Airlines had this campaign where some guy came out and he was talking to the people in his sales team, and he had this stack of plane tickets, and he said, "I feel like we're losing contact with our customers, so we're gonna change all that today. And here, you're going to this town, and you're going to Kalamazoo, and you're going to Albuquerque," and just started handing out tickets. And he's like, "Why would we need email when we can just fly thousands of miles and go see our customers in person? Isn't that better?" Well, I mean, it depends. Is your customer an introvert who doesn't like going to sales dinners with you?
Exactly.
But I'm going to go to Denver. I'm going to go to the Buckhorn, and we're going to eat game meat. Well, what if your customer's a vegetarian who really would just rather not have to see you? Email is a great thing for some people.
Absolutely.
I remember at the beginning of the internet when people would try to do things like take their entire parts database, which was like a huge spreadsheet with thousands and thousands of rows, then they would try to cut and paste it into one of the web editors a day, like Hot Dog Pro.
Mhm.
And then Hot Dog Pro would turn it into a huge HTML table. So their entire thousands of items would be in this
Cells.
one huge table. But then the person would try to make it look good and start trying to mess with the margins. And
Sure.
Hot Dog Pro would start giving decimalized non-integer numbers for widths of columns. So imagine, if you will, like a 66 megahertz computer trying to load an HTML page that has a table with thousands of rows where the dimensions of the columns are specified in decimals. How come when I load this page, it takes 20 minutes before I can see anything?
The lights
I don't know.
flicker.
Yeah, I remember the beginning of the internet. It was like handing a flamethrower to a small child. It really was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. Those were wild times.
People don't realize how slow networks were. Yeah, I told you my story about changing the term set parameters. You know, when I arrived at the Fort Worth Army Corps, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers there,
Oh, well,
Fort Worth Federal
yo, I'm
Building.
sorry, dude.
Yeah,
Gonna have to stop it there. I'm gonna have to jet out. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for sending me the invite. But you know
thanks
what?
for coming. Good to see you.
Yeah. You know, and I had fun chatting with y'all, and I love y'all, and God bless.
Hail Caesar.
Salve Dali.
Tastiest salad.
Mhm.
And like that, we are three.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
still
anyway.
presenting, by the way.
Yeah, oh yeah. Me too.
He did that on purpose because he likes the llama.
I just like the llama. Dude, I think that's awesome. But at any rate, yeah, people didn't realize how slow things were back there. And when I say slow, I mean I'm talking about something where simple text, just a few lines of text would would ghostly start to appear on your screen, you know, almost a letter at a time, literally. If you were on like a slow dial-up, like a 300 baud acoustic coupler, uh, y- you were lucky if you got all the characters, period.
Mhm.
And it- it- there wasn't anything like the error checking. Anything people take for granted now. You can't believe what we had to think about. The standards that got developed and the rapidity with which those standards got developed is still one of the most remarkable things I have ever seen in my life. I mean, it seemed like one day we were all making, you know, responding to RFCs and, you know, for the basics of the you know, or reading those responses from the smart people who responded to them on the standards of the internet, and suddenly it was here. But people didn't realize people don't have an appreciation for what the growing pains were like, because the growing pains happened so fast. I still can't believe how much the internet has matured and been, you know, has come from conception to what it is right now, just in far less than my lifetime. Really, about a third of my lifetime. I don't know. Maybe I'm just easily impressed.
Well,
But,
Spittle Buggies is talking about how, you know, the really low speed stuff. I remember the low speed acoustically coupled modems. Those were the suck, but I still remember upgrading to like a 2400 baud modem from a 1200.
Yes.
That was amazing.
That was
And I
amazing.
remember my
Yeah.
first 9600 baud Telebit Trailblazer.
Oh.
That was amazing. But the real
Hey, smart modem
emancipation
9600.
day was when I got ISDN installed to my my townhouse. And I had
You had an ISDN line.
I had an
in
Yes.
in your home?
Yes.
Oh,
I had an
rock.
always on 100, like it was 112K something. I mean, it was like,
it was 100K.
I was like the man. I was actually, I had a PC that I loaded an early version of Unix on and had hacked, ported, excuse me, a version of NCSA's HTTP server, and I was charging people, I kid you not, $250 a month to host their websites on the PC that was in the corner of my bedroom.
Nice.
Those were good
Nice.
times. Make
Those
some
were
money
good
while
days.
you can. Yeah. It was a fun time when the packet radio stuff started up, like the ricochet modems and things. You could do all sorts of cool things. I once had a thing I was working on where I had to go to the city, and as part of a deal with some group of people that wanted to potentially buy my company, I had to do this technology demonstration, but there was no internet where I was going. It was not common for something like that to happen. So I actually had a packet radio link tied to like a web proxy tied to a thing. I did all kinds of mumbo jumbo to make this thing work. But the fact that I had an internet without a modem that anybody could see or any wires going to this thing other than a power plug just completely blew people's minds. It was good times.
That's, oh God, it's wonderful.
But I mean, the early internet it's easy to talk about how screwed up this stuff was. It was actually still pretty slow for most people until you got to around 2010. I mean, it was, most people were suffering with DSL and crappy service, and it was, it was
DSL
not fun
was a big
for a
step
long
forward
time
when it came out.
Yeah, unless it rained or the wind blew or somebody decided to run DSL parallel to somebody else's cable, and then it would just pick up a signal from something. DSL was very fragile. Yeah, I actually had a customer in Toronto who had Rogers DSL going to their office, and they would contact me and say, your stuff's broken. I said, no, you just have Rogers. Shut up and leave me alone. So this guy would call me at 5 a.m. and say, the internet's broken. No, it's not. You just have Rogers. Stop it. So eventually I just stopped answering the guy's calls because it's like, no, I have to get my beauty sleep. Things are dire enough as it is without you waking me up at 5 a.m. over and over again because your internet sucks. Sora knows what I'm talking about.
That's the problem when you have a socialist government, which is what Canada pretty much has at this point. It's certainly headed that way. You start to lose choice, and favored vendors who become almost quasi-government agencies. Like Rogers and what's the other big internet in Canada? Shaw. There's no real competition going on there. Those are not two players who are striving against each other to make intelligent investments and make the market better, make the product better. They don't give a shit about that. It's just they're all in the cash cow mode, and just keep it running, keep collecting the money, and when the natives get restless, hang a few to encourage the rest.
Yeah,
as one does.
Pour encourager les autres, n'est-ce pas? And they, that's the thing. That's the irreplaceable part of capitalism. All these idiots who are hating capitalism, as they use their cell phones, they walk around in their jogging shoes. They absolutely blows my mind what people don't understand about their own world.
Unless they do, and they think what they're doing is a necessary, like wearing and using is a necessary evil before the utopian times.
Before the utopian time. Well, so what will the utopian times be like? Tell me, what will the post-capitalism, post-competition, full equity, post-scarcity be like? When can we expect this?
I don't know when, but you'd probably be looking at, well, there's no competition, so there's no need to do anything, right?
Right. Go straight to breadlines for 70
so
years and then have a revolution. Is that what happens? Because that's
or
what
you
happened
just
last
sort
time.
of you just stay.
Yeah.
I was going to say in your home, but that's capitalistic. You don't have a home.
You're assigned shelter.
You are renting the space, or you are borrowing the space from everybody else, and you can just sit there not doing anything until you perish.
Jeez. Bleak. we've constructed Brave New World, and now we're living in it. What's to become of us? I don't know. Hey, as long as we're talking about the internet, I'm curious, Harry, you probably know this.
Yeah.
Is there a theoretical limit for how fast a satellite-based internet can be? Have you looked into that at all?
Theoretical limit?
Yeah, in terms of just physically laying it out.
Well, it depends on what you
Is
mean by
that ultimate?
fast.
What I'm trying to get to is that the ultimate solution for internet connectivity, satellite.
No. Would you like a longer answer?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted the other answer. I wanted yes.
No. So in terms of, well, we were talking about government at the beginning of this. So to circle all the way back to the beginning of the show, there's only a handful of things that you need a government to sort of administer, because left to their own devices, people are not going to share radio spectrum nicely.
Right.
It's going to be whoever has the biggest transmitter can drown out the other guy is going to be the one who controls all the radio spectrum.
Land and water rights, sure.
So there's only so much sky in which you can put satellites without them crashing into each other, and there's only so much spectrum you can use to communicate with said satellites. So when you say fast, there's bandwidth, and then there's latency. So latency is speed of light. There's really nothing you can do about latency. But if you look at latency and bandwidth, when you combine those things, you get throughput. So when you talk about fast, it's like, how much data can I move? Is it a megabit a second, a gigabit a second, a terabit a second? And that is a function of the latency and the bandwidth. So you can scale the bandwidth up to the point that you have spectrum. And you can, but you can't do anything about the latency. So there are some practical limits you run into. If you were to use some other system with multiple receivers running in parallel, using some kind of directed energy thing like a maser, you could certainly have Earth stations that communicated with satellites at higher speed by doing clever things. But that doesn't help the individual who's got like a Starlink thing in their front yard. So like if you want to live in the woods and have good internet at the same time, none of that particularly works. So there's scalability issues that affect bandwidth, which will ultimately, because of the speed of light, put a cap on what your throughput is. And you can be clever and try to optimize it. There's things you can do to maximize throughput in high latency, high bandwidth situations, but they only get you so far.
Yeah. The other question is the satellite a workable solution to provide everyone with internet connectivity?
Not really. Well, not unless we a bunch of people die.
So it's just too many people.
Too many people, not enough bandwidth, not enough spectrum.
Yeah, I don't have a good feeling for that feels intuitively right. That's intuitively appealing conclusion. It feels right to me, but it's hard to estimate how much population uses how much bandwidth. Yeah.
Well, I think we should decide who gets bandwidth based on historical lack of representation.
Oh, I agree. I would agree with you.
I
Of course,
think that's only fair.
That's going to result in Neanderthals essentially
Well,
getting 98% of the bandwidth.
well, you're going to walk into Rogers or Shaw, and they're going to hold a little thing up to your cheek, and then figure out where you are on the color scale,
Oh, gee.
and that will determine how much bandwidth you get.
Place you in a scatter diagram. and-
Ooh, you're looking awfully pale. If you go get a tan and come back in another day, I might be able to offer you 10 megabits.
Yeah, 10 meg.
Right now, you're capped at 5 megabits per second, pale face. You know what you did.
Oh man, I can remember thinking 1 megabit and thinking I was living large. 1 megabit.
Well, the internet started getting interesting around 256K. Before that, it was pretty tedious. But for me,
it was all text. Remember?
Well, for me, the big thing was when internet stopped needing wires. You know, ricochet modems and different types of cellular packet data. CPDP? Or CDPD, whatever, cellular packet data and different technologies like that, because I could take a laptop running Linux and I could go, well, not Linux, BSD, what am I talking about? And I could have a wireless internet thing, and I could go to the beach and watch the waves come in while I did work. And as long as I had the ability to copy my work back and forth, and I had a local compiler and a decent editor, Emacs, I was fine. I didn't really need anything more than that. All this video streaming stuff and collaborative hoo-ha is all just gravy as far as I'm concerned. I've been happy with technology for like 20 years.
Yes. Yes, have I.
Yeah.
Have I. And the text version of Zork was perfectly fine for me. Thank you very much. That's all the gaming I need. These new electric games make it too easy.
On my second computer, to compile Hello World, which is the simplest C program you can write pretty much, I had to swap diskettes in order to compile Hello World. So I had
because your include file was on a different floppy.
Well, because the different pieces of the compiler were on there. So I had a half meg of memory, and I was swapping diskettes just to get Hello World to compile. So things got a lot better with my first hard drive, which was 10 whole megabytes of size. But at least I didn't have to swap diskettes. Yeah, computers are fine. I mean, they're pretty entertaining for the most part.
They're actually amazing. You also made, just in passing, a reference to a really interesting device. People may have thought you said the word laser. You did not.
I said
Mazer.
Mazer.
About Mazer, which is an acronym that stands for microwave amplification by stimulated emission of radiation instead of light amplification, which but stimulated emission of radiation, which is what laser stands for. But it's a very interesting device that is worth looking up. And I didn't realize that the Mazer won the 1964 physics prize, Nobel Prize for physics. But they use them in atomic clocks and stuff like that, and radio telescopes, and they're rocking cool when you get coherent microwaves, a bunch of microwaves all singing the same song and going in the same direction. It's pretty cool.
Well, that whole wave particle duality thing gets to be a bit cumbersome. At certain frequencies, just take a loop of wire and jiggle some electrons in it, and you'll get an electromagnetic field, and that's fine as far as it goes. And then at a certain point, when you get into the microwaves, you start seeing antennas that look like a horn with an exciter. So what you've got is something that's kind of more like a shotgun and less like a loop that oscillates. And you're starting to see things that function more like a particle. You get up into the shorter wavelengths of microwaves, and they're things that we can't see, but they behave a lot like light. And that's where these masers come in. So you can use this microwave laser as a medium upon which to encode information. And they're extremely useful. Because if you're trying to communicate with a satellite, you have optical lasers, the air is too opaque. Everything sort of scatters, but at the right microwave frequencies, you can pierce through the ionosphere and get around a lot of the dust particles and get a good clear shot at things. But you can also use a parabolic mirror, a parabolic antenna, and other ways of focusing microwaves. You don't have to use a maser. I was just trying to think of ways you could have multiple beams going to a relatively small satellite with an array of receivers. You'd need a much tighter receiving element. That would be a bit of a trick. I don't know if anybody's actually ever done that. I was just thinking out loud because you asked what the theoretical limits were, so I was playing along.
No, it's fun to think about, and the we have just refined that technology so much. The size of the bus, the distance between circuit paths on a chip, isn't it something like 2 or 3 nanometers, Harry?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's really, really small. That's like too small, even like with a special sewing needle. You can't kind of.
Yeah, you kind of need an electron microscope.
Kind of do.
Yeah, well, computers, you couldn't just make them faster, so we had to make them multiprocessor. And so as you see the core counts increase, you're essentially scaling your capacity that way, which means that the software has to be smart enough that it can work collectively with this sort of
all
thing.
Those processors.
And at the operating system level, which is the thing that basically makes sure that the applications have access to the things they're supposed to when they're supposed to without stomping on each other. That's all an operating system basically is.
Yep.
There are a lot of ways things can go wrong. Primitive multiprocessor systems used what are these big spin locks on different parts of the code to make sure that things didn't stomp on each other, and they weren't terribly efficient. And you're not going to run an 80 core gaming system with that kind of technology. So in addition to the hardware growing up, the software also had to become smarter. And the software that we have now that allows games to use multiple CPU cores and like these big GPUs that effectively have all these discrete cores for doing graphics. The software technology has had to grow up a lot along with it. And people don't realize how much of the software maturity is responsible for this, the gains in performance that people are seeing. The new Intel chips that are coming out, is it 13th gen or 14, I can't remember. There's people who know more about that than I do, but and the new Zen 4 architecture from AMD are, these things, you're getting like 20-30% bumps every time they come out with new generations of these things with lower power. The technology, even though we can't make the distance between those circuit lines that much smaller, we're able to get so much more power out of it because we can make more things work together at the same time gracefully.
Man, these 28 core processors are not inexpensive. Xeon Platinums.
Yep.
$22,494.99.
Well, you're looking at the ones with the highest performance. There's a sweet spot.
Yes, I am.
There's a sweet spot down there, somewhere toward the middle of that range of SKUs that has a much better performance. Yeah. Something in a Xeon, like a mid-range Xeon Gold or a high-range Xeon Silver is really where you want to be.
Yeah, the Xeon Platinum though is a fun thing to look at the numbers on it.
Yeah, that's where you're building water-cooled supercomputers. It gets a bit insane.
Wow, water-cooled. I think we need to go to liquid hydrogen cooled.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Liquid helium's for bikers.
Hydrogen, very safe.
Yes, it's so safe.
Well, computers are fun, but they're incredibly complicated, and nobody alive knows everything about all aspects of computing. I know lots of smart people, and they only know about one little part of it, and that includes, I only know about one little part of it, or multiple little parts of it?
I don't know. I've heard AOC talk like she's pretty down with this stuff, Harry.
Well,
You
once we
could learn from
federalize
her.
it, it'll all be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take the capitalism and the competition out of this, and you'll have much, much better, much faster processors, because we're going to redefine what the word fast means.
Yeah.
And that's
So-
how we'll make them faster.
So I have a question for Sora. Right now, you and I are in the same time zone, right?
Mhm.
So do you know they're getting rid of daylight savings time? Well, they're going to basically stay permanently on daylight savings time after this winter. So November 6th, I think, we switch to standard time, and then after that we go to daylight savings time in the spring, and then we just stay on it.
Okay.
Because we've done this in the
Yay.
past and it's gone really poorly. Has your Prime Minister Justine decided to do the same thing there in Canada?
I actually don't know. I don't remember what I can look.
Because I think that especially in the far northern latitudes, I think that it should be pitch black until like 11 a.m. when kids are trying to get to school. I think that you need to do that.
11 a.m. when the kids are in school? What?
Well, right now, what they're
Oh.
going to do is in like December, there's going to be places where kids are going to school, and it's basically going to be dark until 9 a.m. when
That's
they
like-
when they stay on daylight savings time.
I mean, yeah, it's the winter here.
Right. Well, you guys tend to follow our lead on stuff like this, which is why I'm asking.
See if there's any updates. I will look. Oh. Because I know back in March, I think, of this year,
Mm-hmm.
is that when you guys were
Yeah, we talked about it on
got rid of it?
Saturday. Yeah, but we have one more, because there wasn't enough advance notice, we have one more winter of going back to standard time. I'm just thinking about, as bad an idea as it is for the US, it's an even worse idea for Canada, because you're even further north.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
honestly
it
don't care one
exaggerates
way or
the
the other.
It exaggerates it being up north. I remember spend time in England. Well, in Kelowna was like that too. Kelowna, when I was up there, you really noticed the northern latitude. I mean, it was like being back in Belgium. People don't realize that if you look at the border of Canada and the United States, the northernmost part of the lower 48 is at let's see, it's at 49 degrees. 49 degrees.
Mhm.
That's that, and that's up around. That's at about Winnipeg. So that's up north of Lake Superior. Go over to Europe, and
I mean, you mean like 49th parallel?
yeah, the
Which is where I am.
No, well, yeah, it's 49th, 49 degrees of north latitude is what it literally is. And then come down to Belgium. Brussels is at almost 51 degrees north latitude, and almost all of England is north of Brussels. The only part of England that's not north of Brussels is like Plymouth, the bottom little part.
So apparently we did here in my province say that once the US passes like the US House approves its own bill, so like once you guys start moving into permanent daylight savings, then we are switching here. So
It says you passed a bill in 2019.
yeah, but nothing is done.
BC.
Yeah, nothing's been done about it though.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see.
How does
So in
that
Canada,
work?
it's possible to pass a bill and then just not implement it.
Well, it's
We
like
do that here sometimes.
legislation. It's legislation, but it hasn't been enacted.
Okay.
Changing
So-
clocks is too hard. Introducing permanent daylight savings time. Your
But
kids
you know,
will love it.
you get rid of the little rhyme or the little like nursery thing, right? Like fall
Yeah.
back, spring forward. Like, you know,
Well, we had to get rid of that mnemonic that had Pluto in it. So I mean, it's fine. Things have to change sometimes.
no, bring Pluto back. I don't even remember what it is. It's something about my mother, something with pizza.
Yeah, because as bad as an idea as it is for us, it's a terrible idea for you guys. I think the future is going to be very entertaining. I can't wait for the pictures and the videos of small children crying as they stand around in the dark waiting for a school bus. That's going to be great.
Well, yeah, I guess in small towns. In the cities, not so much.
You
It's
mean
going to
because
be a
it's
lot of
perpetually
angry
light?
parents
Yeah.
having to, in the pitch dark, who can't drive, having to cart their little monsters to school. I say lovingly, because
Yeah.
they're cute.
Oh, I forgot it's child abuse for the kids to not be driven to school in a Chevy Suburban, right? They'll come and take your kids away if you don't have like an Escalade to drive them to school in.
Oh yeah, totally. That's anything less. It's humiliating.
Yeah.
It deprives them of social cues.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I told you what I did to my sister one time when I was giving her a ride and you're passing by some of her friends. I rolled down the windows of my car and I played What's New Pussycat being played on a Moog synthesizer very, very loudly. And he's like, "Stop it! Stop it! You're embarrassing me!" I said, "Yeah, I know. That's kind of the point. Stop it! Here, let me
What's
slow down.
new,
Stop it!"
Wow!
Yep.
Oh man, Tom Jones.
What a great brother I was. The best. Hey, I'm driving her ass to school. I don't know what more people want from me.
She should have started singing along with it.
Oh no.
Here's the way you could remember the mnemonic for spring forward, fall back.
Mm-hmm.
This is from John If I Die Today by Lil Wayne. Okay, who's evidently a modern singer.
Oh God.
Big bullshit
Okay.
Red Sox. I get money to kill time dead clocks. It's easy.
Jeez.
You have a weird definition of easy.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not effective, but it's easy.
Also, I'm
No
pretty sure
cap.
you're being racist. I'm not sure how, but
Me being racist?
somehow, some way, you're being racist by appropriating Lil Wayne's labor that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, is Lil Wayne, is he actually well known? I've never heard of him.
I think so. He's like Lil Abner, but more hip and up to date with
Yeah.
the kids.
Better quality Daisy May.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, good to know.
Yeah. Remember boomboxes? That was
I think
fun.
I know
Oh
what you mean.
yeah.
No,
Sora could get a pink boombox. No, they were fun.
a
People
bit
would have
before
like
my
these
time.
giant portable stereo systems and they would just blast them. It's like do you think you do that? Does that thing come with earphones? No way, man. Shut up. You're old. Listen to my boombox. So it was like an annoying portable stereo that people walked around with.
And some of those things were amazingly loud.
Oh yeah.
Really project out some sound.
Yeah, of course, it wasn't like you could plug it in and charge it with your USB charger. You had to basically just keep shoving unrechargeable D batteries in that thing. So you could just wake up one morning and put like 8 D batteries in it, and then the next day you could wake up and put another 8 D batteries in it because it sucked.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
some things are better.
Micro thoughts and safety locks. Hearts become outdated clocks.
Yeah.
Who do you think wrote that? that little bit of doggerel.
Richard
Someone very
Stallman.
famous. David Bowie.
Oh, so not
Micro
Richard Stallman.
thoughts and safety locks. Hearts become outdated clocks. I'm just looking up mnemonic rhymes about clocks just for fun.
I thought you were just looking for like top 10 famous androgynous people or something.
No. People by people as disparate as Elvis Costello and Joan Baez have written songs containing clocks. Fish has written stuff. The Doors, John Hyatt, John Mellencamp, Ringo Starr, Bachman Turner, Yellow Card, Boyzone, Jeff Buckley, even SpongeBob SquarePants wrote "Locked Up Like Fort Knox" and "Make Him Stop the Clocks."
I wonder if that was when Stephen Banks was the head writer for the show.
It's a possibility. Yeah,
Stephen Banks was a comedian who sort of a musical comedian guy. And he did a show on HBO called Stephen Banks Home Entertainment Center. And it's the story of a man who got easily distracted and perpetually procrastinated. And it is still one of my favorite things ever. And it is available on YouTube. Just look for Stephen Banks Home Entertainment Center. And you will never procrastinate and not think about that again, probably till the day you die. Because I still think about that whenever I don't want to do my work. It's funny as hell. And he ended up going on to be the head writer for SpongeBob.
Interesting. He collaborated with Penn Jillette in writing Love Tapes. I did not know that.
Huh. I knew he knew Penn Jillette because Penn Jillette actually introduced his HBO special, but I didn't know that they'd collaborated.
Anybody who hangs with Penn Jillette is probably going to be okay with me, but look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, you have blown 2 hours of your evening listening to us prattle on. And I, for one, am grateful that you shut up. And I would like to thank chat for coming out and listening to us. Yeah, it's worth every penny you paid for it. But seriously, thanks for coming out and listening to us. We do it for you. And thank you to my panel, to Adam, Sora, and Harry for coming out tonight.
You're welcome.
Miss our friend Prospero, but we'll catch up with her next time. And but for tonight, the zoo is closed. And good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Bye.
Good night.